So we have this beautiful Brazilian cherry slab that we got from our friends over at West Penn Hardwoods, and we have it prepped and ready for finish. And what I decided to put on this slab, because of the density of the wood and because I want to bring out as much depth and clarity as I possibly can out of this piece, I want to use my super penetrating oil platform. Now, right beside it is our butcher block oil. These two finishes are very, very similar. They're built on the same platform. This butcher block oil is literally based on the super penetrating oil platform. It has all the same properties as the super pen, but this one here has a little extra kicker. It's got special blends of essential oils in it that are made to kill and disinfect your butcher block surfaces. So I'm going to use this actually to finish as my base coat on this Brazilian cherry. And I'm using it like I would use the super pen and use it like a base coat. And I'm using it just to show you, you can use this instead of having to buy a big bottle of SPO. So I'm going to put the SPO away, and I'm going to open this bottle of butcher block oil. That one was previously opened, and that's a no-no. You don't want to get oil on the threads after you opened a jar, because it will glue shut. It really will. So always clean the threads on your jar when you close them, because you don't, and make sure the lid is clean, the threads there as well, so you don't glue your jar shut and have difficulty opening it and embarrass yourself like I just did. So always stir your Odie's oil, all of your finishes except for the butter and the wax. And as you can see, the butcher block oil is thin, just like the super penetrating oil. Literally very similar, same format, pretty much the same product. This one just got a special blend of essential oils just to make sure your surfaces are clean. I don't like to talk about that. We don't post that on our jars or anything, because there are certain guidelines we have to follow, but I can talk about it in this video. And that's just an extra benefit there. And then the other benefit is conveniently priced, much lower price. You don't have to buy the equivalent of 4 bottles of this. You've got one. And you use so little of the super pen, as you're going to see as I do on this Brazilian cherry. So I'm going to pour a little bit on, and I should be able to finish this whole piece with this. I'm going to use our applicator block and a non-woven gray pad. And I'm just going to go ahead and work this oil in. And I chose the butcher block oil, or the SPO, the super penetrating oil, because the sapwood, I want to kind of keep this sapwood as bright as I can. It was previously finished before. We used the Odie's Dark, and I really didn't like, and you know, it's been about 10 years ago we finished this. I really didn't like what it did to the sapwood on the dark, because it brings the sapwood down and ambers it. And I wanted to take out as much as that ambering as possible. Now, it is got its own amber nature to it, this wood on the sap area, but I still didn't want it as amber as it was. So I'm just going to work this in. Believe it or not, I'm going to need some more. This slab is a little thirsty. Interesting. Now, those of you that are watching, you're noticing I'm doing it by hand. If you're new to Odie's, or even fairly new to Odie's products, I suggest you do this by hand. Don't use a machine. There really isn't any reason to use a machine unless you're in a big rush and you actually know what you're doing with Odie's, because when you use a machine, especially in the beginning, you'll have a tendency to use too much. The biggest mistake that people make when using Odie's products is they use too much oil. And then they can't get it all off. And then they wonder why they got an unsatisfactory finish, because they left finish on the surface. This is not a film forming finish. This is a penetrating structural oil. It's designed to go deep into the wood surface, catalyze and harden there, and protect the wood and give you a beautiful finish. It's not a plastic coating. You don't want to put a plastic coating on your wood surfaces. That is counter to proper wood finishing. Polyurethane finish wouldn't even stick to this properly. You would have to use sealers before you put it on, and even then it's going to fail over time, because a wood like Brazilian cherry, it happens to be very oily, has its own oils and resins in it, and it's very dense, and the polyurethane doesn't like to stick to it. This oil does. This oil is at home in this wood, and it just gets better and better with age. I've done many hundreds of thousands of square feet. To be honest with you, well over 1 million square feet imported and sold around the United States of Brazilian cherry flooring. Back in my day, I was an importer, a major importer of this wood. And this is the best finish you can possibly use on these oily, dense exotics. Urethanes and pseudo hard wax oils that are really urethanes do not work on these woods. Odie's is the Mac Daddy when it comes to dense, oily exotics. And it's one of the reasons why I get this from West Penn. West Penn and I, the guys there, are friends of ours because they specialize in exotics. And they know that Odie's is the wood, the finish that you use on exotics as well. So I'm going to work this in, and then I'm going to buff it off. I'm going to let it set up for a day or two. Then I'm going to come back and put one more coat of Odie's oil on it, and it's going to be done. And this will actually wind up in my home. A little more. Probably used about a ½ ounce to finish this, and I'm a little heavy. I'm using it a little heavy, so my buff off's going to be a little bit more difficult than if I put it on light. But for the purpose of this video, I want to move fast and get it done. And I like using these non-woven pads because they cause some friction just on little microbursts. And that friction causes heat, which drives that oil into the surface. Plus, this has got an abrasive quality to it. This one's rated about 800 to 1,000 grit and really works nice for applying the oil. If I sanded really high, I would have used a white pad, which is a 0 grit, because I wouldn't want to put any extra scratch pattern into the wood. But in this case, I sanded below 800 grit and way below, and I don't have to worry about putting any excess scratches in it. In fact, this will step up my sheen a little more, which is really nice. Plus, I get the extra benefit of the friction from the more abrasive material in this over the white pad. So make sure you got every area of the piece. And look at that beautiful color that came out in this wood. And Brazilian cherry is one of those woods that's photosensitive. It's just going to get richer and redder with age and darker. It's a really pretty wood. In my opinion, it's underrated. One of the better woods to work with. Super durable, really scratch resistant, and it's something you'd have forever. And it works really nice in exterior applications too, Brazilian cherry. I don't suggest using a live edge table outside, but inside or even for flooring or decking for outside, Brazilian cherry is fantastic. You know, shutters and doors and gates and things like that made out of this wood. It's just, it can't be beat. It's amazing stuff. So now that I got this whole piece finished properly, I might spend a little more time working it in. And that's it. So next will be the buff off, and I'll show that in the next video. Thank you for joining.